Hello, welcome to the Hot Seat. I'm here with Eri Bertsou, a PhD student in the Government Department, and we're here to discuss the situation in Greece. Welcome, Eri.
Thank you.
So first of all, can you give us a brief overview of the situation in Greece as it stands at the moment?
Yes, we had elections this Sunday, and for the first time, the radical left party Syriza came to power. The Prime Minister was sworn in yesterday, Alexis Tsipras, and it marks a first for Greece, and it created a lot of tension in the media all around the world for various reasons. Briefly, the political party system in Greece has changed a lot. Syriza used to be a party that was between 3 and 5% of the vote up until the 2012 double elections. The formerly known as two big parties in Greece, New Democracy and PASOK, which was the center right and the center left, have lost a lot of their electoral power. They used to take away about 80% of the vote in 2007, in the 2007 elections, and now combined less than around 32% of the vote. So the dismantling of PASOK has been well documented, and the rise of Syriza also in the international media. But it can only be understood properly if we take a closer look at what is happening in Greece, the financial situation and the social situation. So sometimes these indicators don't find themselves inside discussions about what is to be done with the financial situation in Greece and the debt that the country is facing. But because of the policies that have been implemented and because of the financial situation in general, Greece has seen a 25% contraction in their GDP, so a quarter of the economy lost, coupled with rising unemployment. Presently, 1 in 4 people is unemployed in Greece, much higher youth unemployment, so 50%, around 50%. And that has had profound implications for Greek society, with 23.1% of people living at risk of poverty, according to Eurostat. So I think Greece is now at the top of the table regarding people at risk of poverty. So these social indicators show that people in Greece have been under enormous strain, and a lot of them feel that there's no benefit from the macroeconomic policies that have been implemented. Policies of austerity that were presented as necessary, and a lot of people thought that were necessary and silently accepted, have not given the results that they were hoping. And there is a good chunk of the population that feels there's nothing more to be gained by going down that path, and that they are ready to try something new, try something different, a newer leader, a smaller party, and a party that has been anti-austerity from the outset. So what we saw from the elections was that the parties that gained in electoral support were the parties that were anti-austerity and wished to renegotiate the terms and forge a different path for Greece, and the parties that were punished were the parties that had shared power since Greece returned to democracy in 1974, and are associated with the policies of austerity.
So other than the opposition to austerity, can you tell us a little bit about Syriza and their coalition partners, the Independent Greeks, and why have these two parties formed a coalition?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, and perhaps counterintuitive to have a party from the radical left coming in coalition with fairly right. I mean, not extreme, because we have other parties, unfortunately, to fill that space. But Syriza failed to reach the parliamentary majority, so he went into coalition with the Independent Greeks, a party that was formed in 2012 from former MP of the New Democracy. And what, again, that shows, although counterintuitive at the beginning, is that the left-right cleavage, as we know it in politics, has been completely tramped over by the pro-austerity, anti-austerity cleavage. It's not yet a pro-European, anti-European cleavage, because Greeks are pro-European, and there's still widespread support for Europe and the single currency. But it's important to note that the people voted, and the politicians are acting with that new cleavage in mind.
So Syriza have come to power with quite a radical agenda. What are the promises that they've made, and how are they going to pay for their programme?
Syriza has promised a lot of things to a lot of people, and it will be hard to deliver on all fronts. But I think the main issue is to renegotiate the debt and the financial plan that Greece is to follow in the next year, so that it can eventually stand on its feet. And of course, on the other hand, you have the European partners and the Troika, Germany especially being very firm, standing firm on the ground. But I just think that the truth lies in the middle, and there will be renegotiations, and hopefully a mutually beneficial solution will be found for everyone involved, because we've seen more and more political and economic commentators outside Greece coming to acknowledge that the situation is not sustainable as it is. They will certainly have a hard battle to fight, both at home and abroad, especially abroad. But I think it's important to note that the voters have not given a blank check to Syriza, and a lot of the feedback that we get from people we speak in Greece is that they are not convinced 100% that Syriza was the right choice, but they were convinced that the other parties and the policies they were pursuing were definitely not the right choice. So there's a lot to be seen.
One thing we've seen in recent years in Greece is the rise of the Golden Dawn. In this election they came in third. So what explains the rise of this party, their significance now, and the significance of them coming third in this election?
Well, what we saw essentially was that Golden Dawn has maintained its support, despite the fact that its leader and some of the leading members of the organization are in jail, facing trial for criminal activities. Golden Dawn managed to voice certain xenophobic, anti-immigration, and anti-democratic even attitudes that might have been in the Greek population, but came due to the economic difficulties and the financial crisis. And the party has managed to legitimize those voices and represent them in the parliament. These attitudes are also caused by ailing political culture in Greece, democratic deficit, and failures of the educational system. And hence, it will take, I think, a long time to address, sort of target those voices and try to change them, because political culture doesn't change from one day to the next. So it's not just the economic difficulties and the economic suffering that we've seen, although certainly that triggered it, because as you said, Greece is not alone in Europe to see those parties and those voices. When you have Finland, when you have Germany, when you have UKIP, although not as extreme as Golden Dawn, voicing such nationalistic and xenophobic attitudes, you know that it's time for European leaders to take note and understand that their policies are having an effect.
So what are the various issues that have driven Greece to vote in the way it has, from corruption, tax evasion, Europe, the euro, austerity? How important are all these various issues?
Well, I think that for this election, it was mainly austerity. So the main decision was, do you want to continue down this path or change and try to achieve a negotiation anti-austerity? That was the options that was presented to the Greek electorate. Obviously, tax evasion and the establishment, if you will, was part of that choice as well, because Syriza comes with no political baggage, or with much limited political baggage than the other parties. So there was a choice between change and hope, and that was the campaign that Syriza led with a younger politician, and promised to tackle the elite, the establishment, tax evasion, tax avoidance, and corruption.
So what future does Greece have as part of the euro and as part of the EU?
Well, that's the £188 billion question, I suppose. I think looking at the Greek people, they are still pro-Euro, pro-European. I think 63% in the latest Eurobarometer indicated they are in favor of the single currency and the monetary union. Looking at Syriza from the outset of, and their rhetoric from the outset shows that they have come a long way from the extreme, if you will, towards the center, and they are saying that they do see the future of Greece within Europe. Now, the Greek people are suffering from austerity fatigue, and I think it's understandable, and it's not just the Greek people, it's also people in Spain, and Italians are also looking to Greece, and that's why this election has generated a lot of interest from all European member states. And one question is, what is the future of Greece, but also what is the future of Europe? And I think it's important that Europe also reflects on what kind of Europe we want and what kind of Europe is feasible, because a lot of people have claimed that Greece is poses no longer a systemic risk as it did in 2012, and that is true because due to the PSI, a lot of the debt was transferred from financial institutions in Europe to the new lenders, the Troika. And Greece is also a relatively small economy in terms of size for the European Union, and a potential exit would not be as catastrophic for European financial institutions. However, that does not address any of the issues, the structural issues of the euro that also contributed to the current situation. So Peter Hall has a very interesting publication on the euro crisis and the varieties of capitalism, showing how the different member states operated under very different political economies with institutional asymmetries. So imposing the same model on different member states was bound to create problems. So when you have debt problems and debt can no longer be serviceable, you need to make choices on who gets paid and who doesn't. And these are the choices that we're facing now, and these are the choices that are driving Europe apart. So even though Greece might not be might not pose such a systemic risk anymore, I think other countries, bigger economies such as Spain and Italy, that again operate under a different political economy with different institutional cultures, which are not going to change from one day to the next, they will highlight in the future the problem of the Eurozone. So better to take note now and address the issue. So I hope that Greek leadership will be able to negotiate with European partners and find a solution that will allow the economy to flourish, not just in Greece, but also in the rest of Europe, and see some growth.
All right. Thank you very much, Eri. You're off the hot seat.